Okay, so a thought of a video came to me today, and I only have about 10 minutes and 38 seconds to film videos. My camera just wants to stop at that point, so I'm going to try and rush this. And it's not scripted, it's not really thought out, it's just spontaneous. So if I miss anything, or if I could have added more or better material, I apologize. But anyway, it's about what's the big deal about being godly. What is it about the world today that is so against God and actually repeals to the name Jesus or any kind of mention of a Christian? And I'm going to tell you why. It is because it is so far away from us now. It's not something that's generally taught. We're not close to God anymore. Society looks at church and goes, well, that's just a choice if I want to do that. And the only reason is because we have gotten so far away from it that it's just not what we commonly think of anymore. It's not in everybody's daily life. So when we're in an environment where something is not in our daily life, we think it's a choice. But once upon a time, the world was godly. And so I wanted to address, God's moral laws for us. And, one of the reasons why people do not like um, a set of rules. But I want you to think about this. If you're going to a concert or an amusement park and you're entering a forum or a setting where they are having these for you, they're going to have rules that you need to follow. And if you don't follow them, they're going to kick you out. And the reason why they have the rules is because it maintains a sense of goodness and respect amongst other people that are in the same venue as you. And while the world is a venue, it was created by God, and so there are rules that He has. And I just want to bring up why are they so bad? What are people so afraid of? Okay, I'm not good at going through them very much, and I may miss one or two, but I want to address some of the more simpler ones. Okay, um, God is our creator, so one of the laws that he ordained for us is that you shall not worship other gods. Well, I'll tell you really quickly about that. There were something called Nephilim, and instead of me getting into that, they're basically the offspring, I guess I am going to get into it, of angels that came down to earth and had intercourse with humans. Um, there's going to be a lot of people that might be freaked out by this or want to fight with me on this, and that's not what I'm here for. But the offspring of these became an abomination to God because it wasn't an offspring that was ever meant to happen. These angels rebelled, but what would be the fruit of this, the childbearing fruit of this, they became these 15 to 30-foot beings. And over time, when people lost knowledge of how they came to be, um, they would worship these things as gods. And as they died off, the history of the remembrance was still self-taught to generation upon generation. And so these things that were worshipped. And so now they're talked about in these other religions, and people worship them still today, even though we can't see them. It's a history. And God is saying, I never meant for these beings to ever be here. I am your creator. Don't worship them, worship me. Thou shalt not kill. Okay, that's pretty obvious, right? When I was in Israel, I was taught that it actually is thou shalt not kill without reasons. I know that there are biblical stories where killing was allowed. The murdering, or I don't want to say murdering, but the killing is basically, if you looked at the history of why there was an allowance of killing, it was because of the history of the peoples, and they were doing evil things, and they were worshiping these gods. They were killing people in those other gods' names, um, and just doing really disgusting stuff. And it was causing poor behaviors, and it was rubbing off on other people. Um, and that was why that there was some biblical allowance for killing. But we in general should not go and kill. which leads to thou shalt not covet. Thou shalt not covet means thou shalt not long for something that you don't have that maybe another does. The reason why we're not supposed to do that is because where some of us can maintain some composure, other people can't, and they will take it to another level. They can want something so bad that somebody else has that they can start to hate that person and actually want to steal from that person, and they'll go and do it. So coveting leads to poor behavior because some people might take it too far and go and commit the next thing, killing that we already addressed, but thou shalt not steal. These things can happen through coveting. Okay, thou shalt not steal. Pretty simple, man. Do you like somebody stealing your stuff? I doubt it, right? So just something to think about. All of these moral laws that God has put on his creation was to keep us in good behavior. And we should be comforted by these, not just doing them because we feel like it. And, there's a supernatural influence on us that is pushing us toward this behavior of hating God and not recognizing that these things are really for our benefit, that a creator was telling us not to do. Another one is thou shalt not bear false witness against another, because you can get put in jail. Just as an example, if somebody blames you for doing something that you didn't do, okay, it's wrong. Do you want to be blamed for something that you didn't do? I'm sure we've all been there. We've all had somebody blame us for something that we didn't do. Did we like it? I bet not. So again, it's just another thing that God tells us not to do because it's painful. It puts us in positions where we're having to suffer for things that are unnecessary. Another thing about, I guess, okay, committing adultery and fornication. Fornication and committing adultery have to do with loyalty and commitment, or lack thereof. When you don't have any loyalty and you don't have any commitment, you commit adultery. You're unfaithful. Or you're just fornicating, you're not getting married. The reason why this is a law is because God meant for humans to become married, to cleave to one another in a relationship and have honor and respect and loyalty and commitment to them. If we don't have that, if we decide that this isn't a rule that we want to follow, what happens? Number one, marriage is out the door, because the more free sex that we're having, why get married? I don't know if anybody's watching this video and doesn't understand this term, but it says, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? So we're dishonoring God's wanting us to cleave to another in loyalty and commitment through marriage. Okay, that goes out the window with fornication. The other thing that happens is there's accidental pregnancies left, right, and center. And that leads to thou shalt not murder. And I don't care if people want to sit there and convince themselves that the majority of the reason why abortions are done is because of rape. That is less than 1%. Sorry to break it to you. The reality is that abortions are now used for, gosh, I'm just totally losing the terminology here, but it's an oops moment. I accidentally got pregnant, because sex was not created for simply our selfish desires. It's not meant for notches on the bedpost and I'm a man because I've slept with this many women. Anyway, all of these things, we are going to have a judgment date for these. We need to understand that this type of behavior was simply meant so that we had a peaceful world that we live in. To not do these things is causing all kinds of trouble on the earth that goes against God. And whether you believe in God or not, the reality of it could be, and I say that it is, that on the day that your physical body passes from this earth, you are going to be standing in front of a mighty God who is there to judge your behavior on this planet. And if all you did was make the personal choice to rebel and disregard and go about your own business, the things that he put in place for our protection and a good world, there's going to be a judgment day on you for that. And the reality of hell is an entirely other video in itself. And it's one I don't want to make, but it's another thing that's pressing on my heart. So I'll get there. But really think about these. Look up the 10 Commandments for yourself. Look at them realistically and ask yourself, are they really that big of a deal?